This morning in the news, a pharmacist from Walgreens was accused of not filling an abortion prescription. My name is Elder Robert Davis, and welcome to Revealing the Truth. Today we're going to speak about the sanctity of life. As I said in the introduction, today a pharmacist is accused of not filling an abortion prescription for a lady. Now, Almighty Yahweh has created man in his image. Mankind was not formed to live a sinful life. We know that sin is the transgression of the law. Almighty Yahweh made man in his image, and the sanctity of life shows us that human life has an inherently sacred attribute that should be protected and respected, because man was made in Yahweh's image. Over in Genesis chapter 1, in verse 27, it says, Elohim created man in his own image, and in the image of Elohim created he him, male and female created he them. And Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over it, over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. Almighty Yahweh has given us life, and that life is sanctified, is set apart for a holy purpose. Now, during the days of Noah in Genesis 9, in verse 1, Elohim blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And this had to happen after man was wiped out with the flood. In verse 2 it says, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be on every beast of the earth, and on every bird of the heavens, and every beast of the earth, and on all that moves on the earth, and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. As the green herb have I given you, but the flesh with the life of it, which is in the blood of it, shall you not eat. And surely your blood, the blood of your lives, will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it. And at the hand of man, even at the hand of every man's brother, will I require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of Elohim he made man. And you be fruitful and multiply, and bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply in it. But it seems that man has made a decision to not keep this commandment. They are committing abortions in record number throughout the United States, throughout Israel, and now even in Ireland, which is a Catholic country, and abortion is a sin. And it seems that man is just going his own way. Over in Jeremiah chapter 1, I want you to turn with me there. Jeremiah 1, and we'll start in verse 4 and 5. It says, "Now the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the belly, I knew you. And before you came forth out of the womb, I sanctified you. I have appointed you a prophet to the nations." Now, this is Yahweh saying before he was formed, he knew him. See, life begins at conception. And Yahweh is the author of that. And mankind cannot change it. Over in Psalm 139, and we'll start in verse 13. Psalm 139, verse 13, it says, "For you did form my inward parts. You did cover me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made." See, Yahweh is the one that ordains our beginning. He knows what he's going to do. And we are created in his image. Wonderful are your works. Yahweh looks upon us as being wonderful, brethren. And that my soul knows right well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and curiously worked in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes did see my unformed substance, and in your book they were all written. Even the days that were ordained for me, Yahweh knows our beginning and our end. It's not up to us as man to take the life of an unborn child. When as yet there were none of them, even before those days Yahweh knew us. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O El. How great is the sum of them. See, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Almighty Yahweh is the one that has ordained our creation. And everything he does is wonderful and perfect. Over in Matthew chapter 22, in verse 36, the Pharisees had heard that Yahshua had put the Sadducees to silence. And in verse 35, one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question, trying him. And they always tested and tried Yahshua. And he always gave them the correct and proper answer. He says in verse 36, "Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law?" And he said to him, "You shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind." That means with all your being, brethren. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like unto it, is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Now, these unborn children are our neighbors, even though, a lot of these women that are aborting their children may not think of them as a neighbor. They might think of them as a parasite or something of that nature, but this is a blessing from Yahweh. A child is a blessing from Yahweh, even in the most dire circumstances. Almighty Yahweh gives us these blessings because we have to understand life is a gift from Yahweh. Romans chapter 13 says, "Let every soul be in subjection to the higher powers, for there is no power but of Yahweh. Yahweh is the one who is the highest of the high. And he's the one that tells us how we should value and respect life. Now, people have a tendency to go in their own direction, and that's sad. We have to show respect for life, and Yahweh wants us to have respect for life, both our own and that of others. Now, in each and every society, it's not that simple, because everyone doesn't respect or listen to Almighty Yahweh. But he says the powers that be are ordained of Yahweh. Therefore he that resists the power withstands the ordinance of Yahweh. And they that withstand shall receive to themselves judgment. The world is setting themselves up for judgment, brethren. And we have to be ready and as witnesses to the world of how Yahweh views life. Now, the sanctity of life goes back to the originator of it, and that's Yahweh. He's the one that has given us. In verse 3 it says, "For rulers are not a terror to the good work, but to the evil. And would you have no fear of the power?" You see, that power is Yahweh. He's the ultimate power. "Do that which is good, and you shall have praise from the same. For he is a minister of Yahweh to you for good. But if you do that which is evil, be afraid." And see, those doctors who are performing these abortions should be knocking in their boots. They should be fearful of the judgment that is to come. For he that does not bear the sword in vain. For he is a minister of Yahweh, an avenger for wrath to him that does evil. For this reason you must be in subjection, not only because of the wrath, but also for conscience sake. For this cause you pay tribute also, for they are ministers of Yahweh's service, attending continually upon this very thing. Now, if we're not speaking out as ministers against abortion and the taking of lives, not just abortion, but any taking of lives, we have to understand that Yahweh is going to judge us doubly, because we've been given a sacred purpose. So if we are the ministers of Yahweh, we have to render to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, and honor to whom honor. And who better to honor than Almighty Yahweh?
The appointed times or feasts of Leviticus chapter 23 were kept in the Old Testament, were kept in the New, and will be kept in the coming kingdom. The question is, why would we not keep them now? To learn more, request your free in-depth study entitled Biblical Holy Days. Write to YAIY 2963 County Road 233, Kingdom City, Missouri 65262, or visit us online at yaiy.org. You may also call toll-free 1-877-642-4101.
Back in Romans 13, verse 8, to continue the point, it says, owe no man anything save to love one another. For he that loves his neighbor has fulfilled the law. Now, what greater love would we show even the unborn child by not aborting them? See, Satan has confused the minds of the people that it's all right to take life. See, man was not created to sin. He wasn't designed for that. Satan deceived Eve, and Adam, of course, followed suit by eating of that which he was commanded not to eat of. And therefore, mankind became cursed. And from that point, death was introduced. If Adam and Eve did not commit this sin, death would not have been introduced into our society. Now it says in verse 9, for this you shall not commit adultery. You shall not murder. And see, abortion is murder because you're taking the life, you're extinguishing a life. And people cannot understand this because our society is at a point where they think it's nothing to it. It's nothing wrong with committing abortion or ending the life of this unborn child. But it violates the covenant. And I want to continue it here. It says, you shall not steal. And you're stealing that life of that unborn child. You shall not covet. And if there is any other commandment, it is summed up in this word, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Think about your life. What if your mother would have decided to abort you? You wouldn't be here. And you understand, see, we cling to life. We want to live. And each and every one of us inherently, it's the sanctity of life that causes us to want to thrive and live. Yahweh said, be fruitful and multiply. He didn't say destroy, kill. Now, he says, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love works no ill to his neighbor. Love, therefore, is the fulfillment of the law. Now, regardless if you are in a situation and is a unplanned pregnancy, or there's a young lady that finds herself with this unwanted child, she can again put that child up for adoption instead of ending the child's life before it has a chance to live, because you don't know what greatness you would be snuffing out. Almighty Yahweh has called us to live, to be fruitful and multiply. In verse 11 it says, in this, knowing the season that already it is time for you to awake out of sleep. Satan has caused the world to fall asleep because this is taking over the world. If you think of all of the millions and millions of aborted children. For now is salvation nearer to us than when we first believed. The night is far spent and the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk becomingly as in the day, not in reveling and drunkenness. See, people party and end up sleeping with someone and they get pregnant and then they want to terminate this life because it was a mistake on their part. But Yahweh doesn't look at it that way. Not in chambering or wantonness, not in strife and jealousy. But put on the sovereign Yahshua the Messiah and do not make provisions for the flesh. See, people are worried about the flesh to fulfill the lust of it. But Almighty Yahweh is the one that is going to make sure that we have what we have need of. Now, in Ezekiel 18, he says in verse 4, "Behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sins, it shall die." Man is a living soul, and we have to understand that. But if a man is just and does that which is lawful and right, and has not eaten upon the mountains, neither has lifted his eyes to the idols of the house of Israel, neither has defiled his neighbor's wife, neither has come near a woman in her impurity, and has not wronged any, but has restored to the debtor his pledge, has taken nothing by robbery, has given his bread to the hungry, and has covered the naked with a garment. He that has not given forth upon interest, neither has taken any increase, that has withdrawn his hands from sin, iniquity. And this is what Yahweh is looking for man to do. He has executed true justice between man and man, has walked in my statutes, and has kept my ordinances to deal truly. He is just, he shall surely live, says the sovereign Yahweh. Now, Almighty Yahweh has called the people to keep his commandments. The sanctity of life means that we view life the way Yahweh views it, not the way the world views it, because the world is influenced by Satan the devil. And, of course, he wants to kill and destroy. Therefore, he places it in the mind that it's no sin for people to have abortions. Now, it says here in verse 10, if he procreates a son that is a robber, a shedder of blood, and that does any one of these things, and abortion is a part of that. That's shedding blood. That's snuffing out a life. And that does not any of those duties, but even has eaten upon the mountains and defiled his neighbor's wife and has wronged the poor and the needy. That unborn child is considered needy because they're helpless. Has taken by robbery, has not restored the pledge, and has lifted up his eyes to the idols. One of the idols of ancient Israel that they worshipped was Moloch, and they would sacrifice their firstborn to this idol. There is a place over there called Tophet where they buried the remains of these aborted children. Now, and these children that were sacrificed to this idol, Almighty Yahweh does not condone us killing our children. You know, whether they are out of the womb or whether they're still in the womb, it's still murder. It says in verse 13, has given forth upon interest and has taken increase. Shall he then live? He shall not live. He has done all these abominations, he shall surely die, and his blood shall be upon him. But it's up to us to witness to the people, to let them know that what they're doing is iniquity, is sin. Verse 14, now if he procreates a son that sees all his father's sins, and we've seen these things from the time we were little to the time we've become older. We know what's right and what's wrong. But our society is now flipped. It's upside down. When you take a man that refuses to fulfill a prescription to commit an abortion, and he's vilified. He should be praised for what he's doing. But our society, again, is upside down. People are calling good evil and evil good. And Yahweh talked about that. He talks about that in his word. Now, Yahweh wants us to have respect for life. Again, both for our own and for others. Back in the days of Adam and Eve, for example, their son Cain became very angry with his younger brother Abel. And Yahweh warned Cain that his anger could lead him to serious sin. And Cain ignored the warning. He assaulted his brother Abel and killed him. In Genesis 4:3-8. And Yahweh punished Cain for murdering his brother. Now, Almighty Yahweh wants us to look seriously at what we're doing, because our time is almost up. Yahshua's coming soon, and we have to prepare. Now, Yahweh says in Ezekiel 18:21, but if the wicked turns from all his sins that he has committed and keeps all my statutes, all the covenant, and does that which is lawful and right, he shall surely live. He shall not die. None of his transgressions, his sins that he has committed shall be remembered against him. In his righteousness that he has done, he shall live. See, Yahweh is a faithful, mighty one who is full of forgiveness. He says in verse 23, have I any pleasure in the death of the wicked? The answer is no, says the sovereign Yahweh, and not rather that he should return from his way and live. But when the righteous turns from his righteousness and commits iniquity, does according to all the abominations that the wicked man does, shall he live. None of his righteous deeds that he has done shall be remembered. In his trespass that he has trespassed, and in his sin that he has sinned, in them shall he die. But Yahweh doesn't want anyone to die. The sanctity of life means that Almighty Yahweh has given us his life so that we as his people are faithful in keeping his covenant.